Over the last year, Dell has been one of the strongest brands in the entry-level gaming notebook market and have now released the brand new Dell G3. This is the Jags review. The newly launched Dell G3 and G7 notebooks are going to replace the popular Inspiron 5000 and 7000 series notebooks. But it's not that big of a shift because inside they're pretty much still Inspirons with a few new parts. But on the outside, they've got a much needed facelift. The new notebooks are sleeker, thinner, and move away from a more quote gaming look for something a bit more stylish that can fit in well in any scenario. It's a complete U-turn from the bullet hole edition we saw earlier with this gorgeous white, which as good as it may seem, is a little bit hard to keep clean. However, it's not just a mere facelift for the notebooks as they've gotten more compact and slightly lighter, and at this point they might be the thinnest non-Max U notebooks on the market and are definitely a great option at this price point for something that doesn't take up too much space. The shift in looks extends to the keyboard as well, with blue backlit keys compared to the red on the previous Inspiron notebooks. In terms of connectivity, you get your standard options with your power jack, an HDMI 2.0 port, the Ethernet port, two super speed USB 3.1 ports and a combined audio jack on one side, and an SD card reader, an additional USB 3.1 port and a Noble lock on the other. Now, while I absolutely love the design makeover of the new Dell G3, what I didn't like at all was that the rear vents, while they do a great job of keeping the heat away from the notebook, they don't have as much open airflow or space as the older Inspiron notebooks, and it kinda sounds like a jet engine under heavy load. That's not something you want when you're looking for a notebook. In terms of specs, this is the highest spec G3 on the market with an i7-8750H, a GTX 1050 Ti combined with 16GB of RAM, 256GB SSD and 1TB hard drive, all of which do end up bumping up the price a bit. It also comes with a 60Hz IPS display, but that's fairly standard now in most gaming notebooks. In terms of performance, let's see how it did. On Counter-Strike, the G3 gave about 150 FPS on the default high settings, and when I switched over to the more esports oriented low with textures on medium, I easily got 200 plus frames per second with the usual CSGO drops every now and then in corners. Over to the popular Fortnite, you'll be pleased to know that the Dell G3 gives a stable 80 FPS on high presets on Full HD full screen. And if you're interested in serious Fortnite, then obviously you can turn down the settings for even more. Turning our attention to a bit more demanding PUBG, which brings even the most beastly desktop to its knees, the G3 did fairly well once again. I used my personal low preset from my desktop with textures on low and anti-aliasing on medium and got a stable 75 FPS. In comparison, my 1080 Ti usually manages about 120 on my PC. On the MOBA front, the G3 gives a rock solid 80 FPS on the highest best looking preset, though it's most likely most of you will drop these settings to low for a greater performance boost. I even gave Rise of the Tomb Raider a go on the G3 and got a respectable average FPS of 55 on medium settings on the in-game benchmark tool using DirectX 12. Given it's an entry-level notebook, 55 FPS on medium for a AAA title is pretty impressive. Overall, the Dell G3 stands out of the pack as a good-looking laptop that is both thin and powerful. However, what hurts it is its price tag. Starting at about 70,000 for the i5 GTX 1050 variant, it goes up to approximately 1 lakh for the variant I'm using that comes with the i7-8750H and the GTX 1050 Ti, which unfortunately puts it in the territory of other GTX 1060 notebooks, albeit running i5 processors. Even though the GPU is more important for gaming and logically a 1060 would be a better choice, the G3 with the new 8th gen i7 with 6 cores is more of an all-round notebook for gaming and editing work. The price difference is also attributed to the fact that it comes with a 256GB SSD and 16GB of RAM at the highest end. At the lower end of the spectrum, of course, the G3 starts at 70,000, giving you a much more affordable gaming notebook. Overall, I really like the premium feeling design overhaul on the new Dell gaming notebooks, and the G3 is certainly a strong notebook with variants that range from the entry level to mid-range. While I'm personally looking forward to the G7, the G3 is much better suited for somebody looking for a smaller, lighter notebook with, of course, a lower price point. The only concern, however, which I had, which might be a deal breaker for a few people, is the heat management, which, while doing a good job, does get a bit noisy, which is a big downside for notebooks. I'm Captain Arya, and that was the Jags Dell G3 review. If you liked it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, make sure you hit the thumb down and let us know what you thought was wrong, and we'd be happy to correct it as we move on. Don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content and hopefully soon to be regular live streams.